Hello and welcome to Carmichael Clan Radio, the official podcast of the Carmichael Clan USA. I'm your host, Scott Carmichael. On today's show, I talk with Scottish artist and author Katie Carmichael about her latest project, a book titled My Great-Grandfather, the Alien. The book is a graphic novel tracing her great-grandfather, Thomas Carmichael's life from Scotland to New York as an employee of the United Fruit Company. Family legend told the story of Thomas being murdered in New York, but Katie's research revealed that there might be more to the story. Like always, before we get started, I want to take a minute to remind everyone that you can now join and renew your membership to Carmichael Clan USA from the Clan Carmichael USA website. Learn more about the Carmichael Clan's history, connect with other Carmichaels, as well as learn what's going on in Clan Carmichael USA and how you can become more involved. Visit today at www.clancarmichaelusa.com. Now, let's get started with the show. All right, so Katie Carmichael, welcome to the show. I just want to start out, talking a little bit about your new book that came out. It's called My Great-Grandfather, the Alien. Tell me a little bit about the book, and I know because I want to jump right to it, and then I want to cover some other things also about your work too, but I just wanted to get to the book since this is the newest project that you have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose like lockdown over the last year just presented this opportunity to put together a project that I'd kind of wanted to do for a while. I did some family history research along with my partner to find out about my mysterious great grandfather, who we just didn't really know much about. And my dad had always wanted to know what had happened to this myth of a man who he'd always been told was murdered in New York. And that was all he knew. So when we got to the bottom of some of this, there was just so much interesting stuff. It was such a great story. I just thought, this is something that lends itself really well to a graphic novel.
Yeah, so reading through it, was he more normal than you thought? Because I know at the end it was sort of inconclusive about what happened. It could be as normal as tripping on the sidewalk. It could have been much more, as you pointed out. When you finished with your research, how did you feel? Were you surprised at what you found out? Is this something you're still investigating? I know you said your partner helped do the research. Are you still looking for more answers, or?
Oh, yeah, well, I suppose, yeah, your first question, does he seem more normal to me? No, he seems less normal to me. I think I just assumed he was this guy who was walking off a ship. He had money in his hand, and I was told, I think as a kid, that he probably had his throat slit, which sounded really violent, and that he was just robbed and mugged for that money, and that it was just pure chance and a terrible accident, really. I think through doing the research, we've peeled back so many layers about this man, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of what his motivations were for even being in New York, really. Why did he leave Scotland? And why were we told he was murdered? It just so many of the facts that you think would be right just turned out to be completely wrong. So every layer we peeled back, he seemed more and more intriguing to me. So I got to the point where I started to think, yeah, maybe he was a spy. There's something a bit strange about this.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing with old military records is they use lots of acronyms, and sometimes sometimes they open more, or they reveal more mysteries that you hadn't come across. Like, I know one of the examples from the book was the question about what an SRO, what the SRO acronym meant. Was that a special reserve officer or a sensitive reconnaissance operation? So you get this, you find these records that maybe you hadn't seen before, hoping to answer questions, and then it sort of opens the box, or opens the door to new mysteries. And I guess so I can see what you mean, where he became more mysterious through finding these things, and I'm sure that makes you want to continue the research. Like I said, we all have members of our family that are kind of mysterious to us, and it's fun to piece together the details. But I will admit that all of us, or not many of us, I should say, are as good at doing this as you, and you're much better at putting it in a way that's enjoyable to read. I've discussed your book with some others, and it's more of a I described it, I guess, as a scrapbook, and I guess you did too. It's a scrapbook account of an ancestral journey, and it really is like that. Your collection of the illustrations and records, how they all come together on the page, it makes for a real a fun read. But also, that like I said, it's an interesting read too, learning about Thomas and the kind of the the other parts of that opened up as you move along. So I don't. I'm trying to think about how to ask some questions without revealing too much about the book too. But
That's okay.
um, I thought it was real interesting that Peter joined Thomas in New York too. Does Peter have any relatives? I mean, like what did? So when I was talking with my wife about the book, we were on one of our daily walks, and I was talking with her, and I thought, I wonder if Katie had tracked down, the relatives and the descendants of Peter. Did you ever talk to anyone that might know more? Because I was kind of into the mystery. I wanted to know what happened to Thomas. Like, how did this happen? And so I thought maybe you should check with Peter's family. Like, is that an option?
Oh, well, as far as we know, Peter didn't have any children, and so that feels like a bit of a dead end. We do know that he died an old man in about 1978 in Queens, and that was a kind of a bittersweet moment actually to be able to share that with my dad, to for him to know that actually he had this uncle who was around all that time and he didn't even know about him. But sadly, kind of Peter's the end of that line. So, well, maybe he did have children, but we don't know about it. So, but you're right. I mean, so much of this research has just been driven by my own curiosity. I'm not in any way a trained or skilled genealogist, just like finding stuff out, and I look really hard until I find it.
Yeah, no, and you did a great job too. I mean, I've spent some time on ancestry.com trying to do the same, and you learn real quick that there is some skill involved in genealogy and doing the research, and having kind of dipped my toe in that before, I could see real quick that you did a great job on this. And that's too bad about Peter. And I can see how that would be real disappointing for your dad to know that there was family that was alive until 1978. Because when I was reading the book, it seems like everything is so old. It's like, oh, these people were born in the 1800s, and but then to think that Peter lived to 1978, I'm like, well, that's fairly recent, and so that would be disappointing to know that he was alive that long, and the opportunity was missed to connect with him, and also to maybe find out more about Thomas too.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's maybe a lesson for all of us, isn't it? To know if there's family there and you can reach out to them and have a connection with them. It's a sad reminder to do.
Yeah, I think that's with the pandemic having locked us in our houses for so long in lots of places that I guess with even with the Carmichael clan, choosing to get involved with it this year for myself, it's kind of something similar to that where you have this time, you're in your home, and you can kind of start reaching out to some distant family members and start piecing your story together a little bit more complete. So the proceeds of the book also are going to buy a headstone for Thomas. Is that right?
Yeah, and actually, with help from a lovely organisation called the Friends of Maple Grove in New York, we've actually completed that process and have marked Thomas's grave. Um,
Okay.
yeah, we've paid for that out of our own pockets in the meantime, just because the book sales are kind of going to take so much longer, I suppose, to cover that, to pay for that. So there was an opportunity, we took it, and I'm delighted. It feels like a nice thing to have been able to do that. Although it might have been
Yeah.
romantic to leave it unmarked in some ways, it was important to actually make sure other people could find it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does. It adds to the mystery to have the unmarked, grave. But I think it surely would give some closure, I guess, to the mystery of Thomas and to the, how his life came to such an unfortunate end at a young age. To have the headstone, and that's good that you were already able to get that project complete. And it's in New York, right? Which of the two? Because I know in the book it said that there were two listings for burial sites. Which of the two was it that the tomb that the marker can be found now?
Yeah, Thomas is buried in Maple Grove Cemetery in Kew Gardens in Queens, New York. So, do you know any local Carmichaels who you can go and visit him? I'd love for them to go and say hello on my behalf because I can't be there.
Yeah, sure. And and hopefully they will. I know we're with the podcast, we're trying to get the listenership wider and the membership, the Carmichael clan growing this year. And I think we have some in New York. So hopefully they'll do that.
Thank you.
And maybe they'll take some pictures also. I'd like to see a picture of how it looks. Well, let me ask you real quick about your other work too. Um,
Sure.
when I heard about you, it was about the book, and so but looking through your website though, I found a lot more. I mean, obviously, there's more to you than this book, um, but I was really impressed. So I'm not a golf fan, but I do know what the Ryder Cup is,
I'm
and
not a golf
so
fan either, and I should
you
admit that.
okay? Well, I'm a cyclist, I and that's a lot different than golf. Um, but like I said, I do know what the Ryder Cup is, and so I guess you had the honor of creating the 2014 Ryder Cup poster. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It was a national competition here in Scotland, so I was delighted that my entry was chosen to be the official poster.
Is that how that works? It's a contest to see. So you created your version of the Ryder Cup poster, not knowing that you would be chosen, I guess, to for it to be the official poster.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and it was a great thrill, huge honour.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you? I saw a picture of you standing among look like thousands of these posters. Are those still printed and available? Because I honestly wouldn't mind having one of those hanging up here in my home. Are those
Oh,
still something that can be purchased? 2014 is a bit dated at this point, I guess, but
yeah, I think it's out of print, but you know, I'm sure you pick one up on eBay. I might have some lying around. I'll have a look.
yeah, yeah. If you find one under the bed or sofa somewhere, let me know, and I
Sure.
will look because it was a really cool design. I thought it was really great. Um,
Thank you.
and uh, and so I looked and found that Ryder Cup was hosted at Glen Eagles Hotel in Scotland. So
That's right.
tell me about the. I guess it's the. Is it the Calendar Youth Project Trust? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Is it Calendar?
That's right, yeah. Callandar's a small town here in central Scotland, and Calendar Youth Project Trust is a social enterprise. So they have like a hostel for holidays. They also have these kind of glamping pods. I don't know if you have the term kind of term glamping there. These kind of
I do.
lovely
Yeah, yeah,
luxury
we do.
pods. Yeah. So although it's a holiday business. Those profits that they make from that and from the wedding venue that they have, that's all reinvested into the community to deliver youth work and opportunities for young people to train. So it's a brilliant organisation making a big difference to quite a remote and rural town in central Scotland.
Okay. Yeah, that is neat. I looked around on their site and yeah, you're right. Glamping is the term here. So I think that is an international term now. Um, well, that's pretty neat. So you did the branding. Was that a contest also to see, or is that something you did also, or you commissioned to do that, or was that a contest?
Oh, my partner works for them, and it's an organisation that is really close to his heart. And he volunteers with them. He's been around for about 12 years or more with that organisation. And he came home one night and said, "Like, the organisation needs a complete makeover. We know it needs new branding. Can you help?" I said, "Yeah, of course. I'll work on it in a couple of months' time." He said, "No, we need it now, and we need it in 2 weeks." So I just had to just get on with it. There's something about working under pressure that maybe got the right design.
Yeah, I guess that works because it looks really cool. It was it I was looking on your side, I think it was, and it was talking about the criteria they wanted. So it needed to, or I think it was yeah, that's what it was, the design constraints. That used three circular icons, and I've dabbled in creating logos at times before, and I think to use three circular icons and to pull that off is actually quite talented too, and it looks really cool. It's a really neat. It flows together, and I thought it looked really neat too. So well done on that.
Thank you very much. It was a good project. It was fun.
So tell me about and I'm not even gonna really try to pronounce it. It's your art that deals with found objects, and I think it's objet. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the French terminology used by artists for a found object is objet trouvé, but
Okay,
rather than spell it French, I just spell it as if it was Scottish. So
okay,
it's
I got it.
objet trouvé.
That makes sense. And is that something that tell me about this? So you find objects and just recognize the artistic value in those. Is that right? How that?
Yeah. Oh, right. I think so. I think a lot of artists will be obsessed with a found object and seeing the beauty in something that's discarded. Yeah, I'm always picking things up off the street, old washers, corks, nice shaped bits of glass. I'm an obsessive beachcomber. Yeah, I like to take stuff and show off its natural beauty or transform it into something else. So yeah, I do tend to make a lot of junky necklaces and things out, stuff that I find. And my partner's the same, but he does it on a much bigger scale than I do. So yeah, we have a junkyard for a garden, we find objects.
That's neat, though. You have an unending source of inspiration there. You can look in the garden and see what's laying around, maybe. And I did notice. I know that one of the first things I noticed, you're a photograph of you wearing what turned out to be it looks like a cork necklace, and that was one of the thing that caught my eye first was the necklace. I was like, oh, that's it's different, but it's really cool. And then when I was looking at the found objects part of your website, I think it was a close up picture of like they look like painted champagne corks,
Yeah, that's right.
and and I was like that's such a cool idea, and it looked and that was just it's eye catching,
Oh, thank
but
you. I made them for all my girlfriends for Christmas. I think they weren't too impressed, but I like them.
well they'll learn to appreciate them, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of work goes into drinking 5 bottles of champagne, So
Yeah, true. That's true. It's something like a trophy to wear that around. I suppose that you can say I actually drank all 5 bottles of these champagne. It was earned. Um, I want to shift gears a little bit too and talk about the Scottish culture a little bit, and
sure.
just because when I was thinking this morning, I wondered. So for descendants of Scotland in the United States, we associate a lot, or we try to kind of find our roots through the Scottish clans. And so you know someone is Scottish in the United States because it seems like they'll tell you and somehow like they have their clan badge hanging up or tattooed on them or something like that. And so and I wondered if that was an American thing, or a strong tie with their Scottish clan. Is that just an American thing, or is that? I mean, I know obviously that clans are important in Scotland, but is that something you, as a Carmichael in Scotland, is that something that Scottish citizens have those strong ties to? How does that play into the normal life in Scotland?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it does. I think there's a healthy interest in heritage here generally. We're as interested in family history as anyone else. Maybe it feels a little bit stronger over in the States because you're so much geographically further away. So maybe it's important to show
Hmm.
that more outwardly. But yeah, I think lots of people here do have an affiliation with their clan and know a little bit about what that means and kind of what their heritage is. Like my partner's from a Cameron clan, and he's kind of very much interested in finding out that ancient history as well as that kind of more contemporary social history stuff. For me,
Yeah.
I was always told about my Campbell heritage. The Campbells have a very dark reputation here, and you're not really supposed to tell anyone that you're a Campbell. So there's a lot of that deep-seated antagonism, like don't admit you're a Campbell, or don't tell a McDonald, or if you're a Cameron, you can be proud. So yeah, I think that does infiltrate to some extent. There's possibly an urban myth here that Glenn Campbell visited Scotland and was refused to stay the night in a B&B because he was a Campbell. Well, that's insane, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
it might be true.
Well, that's something I didn't know that there were like the Campbell that was something that you wouldn't want to admit. Um, I know in the United States, or at least to my knowledge, we see Campbell as one of the big clans in Scotland that that are. I think they still have. Is it maybe Ivanary castle. Like I think that's the Campbell clan castle, and it's this this massive structure that's still open, and the chief still lives there. And so from my vantage point, it looks like the Campbells are real successful, but maybe they're just tucked away, keeping to themselves. If it's something that in Scotland you don't want to openly admit. That's interesting too. Because, and I think you're right that in America maybe there's a closer, or we try to be involved in that clan association because we're across the Atlantic and there's not a lot we can do other than join our clan organization either here or in Scotland. So I think you're right about that, where it seems like there's maybe that's our only way of showing our pride and family heritage or whatnot. So, but that is interesting though. Tell me about how listeners can learn more about you and how they can order one of your books. And do you have, I know you have a Facebook page, right, and an Instagram page. So if you don't mind, just tell listeners how they can find your book, learn more about you, and then if they want to follow on one of the social media platforms.
Sure. I've got a website. It's katiecarmichaeldesign.com. On Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. You'll be able to find all those links through the site, each one called Katie Carmichael Design. So, I'd love to make connections with other Clan Carmichael USA members. That would be lovely, to reach out and to connect with one another.
That sounds good. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to tell us about your book and to talk about your other work too, and letting our listeners know where they can find out more. So if any Carmichael clan members are in New York, I hope they'll go check out the headstone of your great grandfather Thomas, and hopefully they'll take a picture and post it on the Clan Carmichael Facebook page or send it out. So, but again, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks again to Katie Carmichael for taking the time to talk with me today about her work. As a Carmichael myself, I'm proud to know that there are so many Carmichaels across the world doing really great things. If you want to learn more about Katie's work or lend your support to her really great work, you can visit her website at www.katiecarmichaeldesign.com. She does ship to the U.S., so order your copy of My Great-Grandfather the Alien today. Katie can also be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Katie Carmichael Design. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes delivered to you. You can subscribe on iTunes and Spotify, and the show can also be found at the Clan Carmichael USA website. If you like what we're doing, or even if you don't, leave us a review. Your 5-star reviews help to promote the show and make it easier for others to find us. Until next time, toujours prêt.